All right, we're going to get started on day 17. Everybody should have day 17. We're going to solve quadratics. Actually, we're not solving them at all. We are just putting them in vertex form. So we're not solving at all. All we're doing is putting them in vertex form. And so what you'll see up at the top are the two forms. We've got standard form right here. That's the form that you tend to love. But after today, you'll see the importance and the value of vertex form. One thing that's nice about standard form, though, is that you can easily identify the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is always going to be 0 because x is 0, and it's equal to c. So if you look at your standard form, you can easily identify that y-intercept really quick. It's just this value right over here. So it's always that c value. X is 0, and then it's equal to the c value. Vertex form, we're going to change things into vertex form, and it looks a lot like completing the square. In fact, we're going to use completing the square when we rewrite these. One thing that's nice about vertex form is just like the name, vertex form can help you find the vertex. Vertex is always h comma k. And so h and k come from right here. But one thing that I want to point out is that in the formula, you'll notice in the formula, h is negative right here. H is negative. So we have to make sure that when we pull it out, it's opposite. And I'll remind you of that when we do some more examples. Right here, we're going to fill in the blanks. So the y-intercept is when x is equal to 0. And it's where the graph crosses the y-axis. It's the y-intercept. The vertex cuts the graph in half. And it represents the minimum or maximum point. The axis of symmetry always goes through the vertex point. These should be reviewed because you should have learned all of this stuff in Algebra 1, so it should feel tingly in your brain because this is all a review. The graph opens up when A is positive and down when A is negative. You do? That's awesome. Then you should do really good on this unit. You do. So moving on, we are going to complete the square and rewrite in vertex form. So we have to remember that completing the square has that little formula. And completing the square, that formula is b divided by 2 squared. I want to see that on everybody's paper. I better see off to the side, you did b divided by 2 squared. Those of you that didn't, I'm going to call your bluff and I'm going to say you didn't do your own work. Okay, you have to write that off to the side. So that is our first step. We've got to complete the square to rewrite in vertex form. This is vertex form. That's what we want to make it look like. But first, you can identify the y-intercept. What is the y-intercept? I just told you how to look at it and figure it out. What is it? 4. Okay, that's B. So it's 0, 4. Before I do any work, I already know what that is. Another thing that I can identify is whether or not you're going to open up or open down. based on the very beginning, based on A, is that positive or negative at the very beginning? It's positive, so we're going to open up. Completing the square. It's that my little pin, it's hard for me to see. It disappeared. Okay, first thing that we're going to have to do, typically we have a problem and it's set equal to 0. So I can set it equal to 0 so it feels familiar to you. And then the first thing that we always do is bring over, so I'm going to have to subtract 4, and I rewrite those 2 lines. I have 2 lines that I'm going to rewrite first. So the first line is just rewriting this. So x squared minus 2x plus blank equals negative 4 plus blank. So this is completing the square. And then the next line is when I have x squared equals something, and I figure out that something but based on what I get here. How do I know the sign right here? How do I know what sign it's going to be? How do I know what sign goes right here? How do I know what sign is going to go right here? It's based on what? How do I know the sign? How do I know what sign goes in here? Nope. A would be positive.
Oh,
it's the B term. It's the middle term always determines the sign. So it's going to be negative. So this is a negative. So this will be a negative. Now I'm going to complete the square. So off to the side, and this is a step I want to see. You do B. So remember that this is A, this is B, this is C. So A helps you figure out whether it's up or down. That's where your A value comes. Your B value is going to help you with completing the square. C value helps you right here. So off to the side, I'm going to say 2 divided by 2 squared. And what's in parentheses goes in parentheses. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then I work my way up. So 1 squared is 1. And anything I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. So now I have negative 4 plus 1, so I get negative 3. But I need it to look like this form. So I need everything on one side and then f of x, which is also the same thing as 0 on the other. So as soon as I complete the square, I need to bring the 3 over. So I need to add 3. So I get x minus 1 squared plus 3 equals 0. And as soon as I have equals 0, that's the same as f of x.
wait, Miss, where do all the ones come from?
Completing the square. So this is the formula to complete the square. B divided by 2 squared. B is 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. And anything I do to one side, I have to do to the other. This is my equation. That's what it asked for in part A. So instead of equals 0, I could say f of x equals x minus 1 squared plus 3. That is my equation. From my equation, I can figure out what my h and k are. C is h and k. So h is here, k is here, it's here. H and k, and my vertex is HK. So remember that in the formula, H is opposite. So if it's negative 1 here, it has to be positive 1. And then K is just right positive. So whatever it is, it is. So 3 is 3.
Wait, so H can.
H is always, no, it can be. It's just opposite of what you see. So if it's a positive, it comes out as a negative. If it's negative, it comes out as a positive. E tells us make a simple sketch. Okay, I can make a simple sketch. I'm going to put an X and a Y. So I have an X and a Y, and then I'm going to label it with some of the things that I know. I know that I have a y-intercept at 4. So, and I'm not scaling anything. I know that up here, I'm going to call that 4. And I know that I have a vertex at 1, 3. Okay, so I'm going to go over about 1 and up 3. So there's my vertex at 1, 3. From here, I can sketch a graph. I know that it looks like a quadratic. And a quadratic looks like a U. So there's my simple sketch. We're going to get more in depth with sketching our graphs, but right now it's just a simple sketch. All right, don't tune me out quite yet because we're not done. Next example. So I'm going to complete the square, but before I ever even do that, first, I can figure out my y-intercept. What is it? 0, 5. I can also tell you if it opens up or down. Tell me. Up. All right, from here, I can complete the square, but first, it'll be easier if we set this equal to 0. Remember, f of x is the same thing as 0, so I'm going to just put 0 over here. It means the same thing. First, I'm going to bring over the 5, so I'm going to subtract 5, and I'm going to rewrite it 2 lines. I'm going to rewrite it to get it set up to complete the square. The more times we do this, the better we're going to learn it. So please don't like tune me out. And as soon as I pause talking, you jump back on your phone. Pay attention. So we've got x squared plus 6x plus blank equals -5 plus blank. I'm not done yet. I need the next line. I have something x plus or minus something squared is equal to something. I don't know this yet. How do I figure out the sign right here?
By the B.
So this is a plus. So my next line is going to be a +2. So this is a plus. So this will be a plus. I'm ready to complete the square off to the side, and I want to see everybody do this. I'm going to do my B term. So it's 6 divided by 2 squared. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then I work my way up. 3 squared is 9, and what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Two now. 4. 9 minus 5 is 4. All right, my goal is to get it equal to 0, which is the same thing as f of x. So I need to bring the 4 over. Remember, we're not solving, we're making equations. So this is a little bit different than solving. So I'm going to subtract 4. And x plus 3 squared minus 4 equals 0, which is the same thing as f of x. They mean the same thing. So now when I go write it, I'm not going to say it's equal to 0 because I'm not solving. I'm going to say f of x, or y equals is fine too. X plus 3 squared minus 4. Once I have this form, I know what h and k are. I have h and k. So what is the point for my vertex? -3, -4. How did you know that the 3 was negative? Everything in the X grouping is opposite because of the formula. From here, I'm going to make a simple sketch. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't spend a whole lot of time scaling everything. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're making a simple sketch. I have X and I have Y. And from here, I'm going to label some stuff that I know. I know that the y-intercept is up at 5. You can call 5 whatever you want. I'm just putting it there. Again, I'm not scaling anything. And I know that this is my vertex point. So my vertex is at -3, -4. So left 3, down 4. And now I can make my graph. Remember, all of these look like a U. So it looks something like that. We're going to continue on to the back side. Onto the back, same things. Before I even get started, I can identify first, what is the y-intercept? So what is the y-intercept? Yep, so it's 0, -5. You can identify that first when it's in standard form. Also, I can identify whether it's going to open up or open down. Up. It's positive, so it's going to open up. And now I'm ready to get things ready to complete the square. I'm going to set it equal to 0. I'm going to add 5 and rewrite 2 lines to get ready for completing the square. Plus blank equals 5 plus blank. How do I know what sign goes right in the middle? How do I know what sign goes right here? B. So is it going to be plus or minus? Minus. So this is a minus. So this will be a minus. Now I'm ready to complete this square. So off to the side, I want to see everybody do this. We've got 2 divided by 2 squared. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then we work our way up. 1 squared is 1, and anything you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So this stuff equals what? 6. Very good. All right, I need it to be equal to 0 because that is my equation. So I'm going to bring over the 6. I'm going to subtract 6. So I get x minus 1 squared minus 6 equals 0. That's the same thing as f of x. So I'm ready to write my equation. X minus 1 squared minus 6. From here, I can identify what my h and k are. H and K come from my equation. So what is my vertex? 1, -6. Very good. Hello. Okay, I'm making a video right now so you can watch the video. And then the last thing is optional. It's to help prepare for the TSI, but I wanted everybody to have it so they could start studying over the break.
Okay. They got our names on there?
On what? I don't think so. Does it have a name?
This.
Put it on the bottom. It's not meant to. I'm gonna get things ready to make a simple sketch with X and Y. I'm gonna plot the things that I know. That's really all that my simple sketch needs. I know that my y-intercept is way down at -5. And then my vertex is 1, -6. So over 1 and then down 6. And now I'm ready to graph. I know they're always going to look like a U. I usually draw it in 2 different pieces. And now I would like to show you something that you can use Desmos to help you. So for this one, if I wanted to use Desmos to help me, then I could type in this equation. I would type in what you start with because you know that's right. The problem is given to you as x squared. Aiden, why do you hate Desmos? Okay, well, all I'm asking you to do is just type in the equation. So you just type in the starting equation and you check to make sure what you graphed looks the same. Yeah, you don't have to compute anything. You type in what you're given. And if we did all this right, then our graph's going to look the same. So here, like, is my y-intercept at -5? Yes. Is my vertex at 1, -6? Yes. That's how I'm checking to make sure that I had to have all these things correct or I wouldn't have gotten the correct graph. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm talking to myself. Does that make sense on how you can check? Sure. Like you're going to know what these things are, but you have to show me this work. So, I mean, either way, you still got to show me that you're completing the square. But Desmos is very helpful. Very helpful. If you were to type it in and get these answers from Desmos, then you would know where you're at least going when you complete the square. It could kind of help you along the way. I mean, that's fine too. You just got to make sure you show me work. Before we move on to the next topic, we can pause for a moment, let that absorb. We can play a couple rounds of, I was about to call it Fantasy Feud, of Family Feud.
Who do we have here?
All right, Dylan. Round 1. Name a 4-letter word you can call your spouse.
You. Honey.
I was thinking that too, but it wasn't 4 letters.
Oh, yeah.
4-letter word.
What would you call your
I think I typically call him baby, but nothing other than that's on this list. I also call him Eric. That's 4 letters. How are we not coming up with this? This is such an easy question. No. Ah, that's something my grandparents, like my granddad used to call my Nana dear. Mommy dearest. All right, round 2. Ooh. If you ran your fingers through a man's hair, what would you hate to find in it? Bugs? Yeah. I don't know how to spell that. Dandruff? This is all strange. That's such a strange thing.
Great. That hair. Is it all hair dead? Yeah.
That's so strange. Like, why would you hate that? Well, I can tell you half my life, I thought my Uncle Curtis had really nice hair, and I thought it was really strange because my dad is the baby, and my Uncle Curtis, there was 8 kids, and he was one of the oldest ones. And I thought, God, Uncle Curtis has nice hair, and my dad's bald. And then half my life, and then I figure out it was a toupee. Like I had no idea that Uncle Curtis has nice hair because he has a toupee. Because one day my dad was like, because it's fake. I had no idea. I had no idea. All right, to write an equation in this form, given a vertex and a point. So these are like, you have several questions on the front side of your homework. You have 4 questions like this. Here's how to do it. It tells you step by step. So it tells you that first we're going to plug in H and K and X and Y. Look at this formula. If we were to plug in H and K and X and Y, so I'm going to mark off everything that we're about to plug stuff in. I'm going to plug in for Y and X and Y, and H and K. So what is the one letter in here that's not circled? A. We're solving for A. So we're going to plug in H and K, X and Y, 4 things because you have 2 points. We're plugging all that stuff in and we're going to solve for A. You need A and you need a vertex to write in vertex form. So in the end, we're going to need this vertex and we are going to need A. Okay, we're going to solve for A. But I'm going to plug these things in. So this is H and K, X and Y. And this is the formula. I'm plugging it all in there. So it starts out with Y. So I get negative 15. So that's Y. And then comes equals A. Parentheses. X. So X is negative 2. And then it's minus H. H is 1, so it's minus 1. Squared. And then plus K. K is 3, so plus 3. So we're plugging everything in. From here, we're going to do 2 steps. So I've got a couple things that my goal is to get the A by itself. So I am going to figure out what that number is, and I'm going to bring over the 3. So if it's plus 3 on this side, I'm going to subtract 3 on this side. So I have negative 15 minus 3. What's negative 15 minus 3? Negative 18.
Wait.
Equals A times something squared. What's -2 minus 1? -3. All right, to get a by itself now, I'm going to have to divide by -3 squared. What's -3 times -3? 9. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. It's always going to be positive. So -3 times -3 is 9, and I'm going to divide by 9. What is -18 divided by 9? -2. So -2 equals a. That's the other piece of information I needed to be able to write my equation. So to write my equation, just like this, I need to know a, h, and k. So y equals, or f of x, it doesn't matter. Y equals a, which is -2. X minus h. Well, my h is 1, so I plug that in here. Squared plus k, which is 3. That's it. So you have to solve for a and then plug in your vertex and a to the equation. That is the end of the lesson, but we're going to still finish our game.